If you missed Tuesday night's Race Chat Live, the RCL crew talked about the type of racing that we have evolved into. Listen in to their thoughts on the type of racing and type of racers we have in today's NASCAR.
Is this the type of racing that we've evolved to? Of course, I love a good fight. I love to go see a good fight and a race break out. There's nothing better than going to see a fight and a good race breaks out. I mean, that's part of the excitement of going to the racetrack is the extracurricular. It's given us storyline after storyline after storyline after storyline. It gives us plenty to talk about. So I love that even more. But what is the main cause for these temper tantrums, for these temper flares? Miss Lee, we've been around racing for long enough. I think it's been kind of an increase over the last couple of years of temper tantrums and fighting at the racetrack. Do you see why? I mean, do you have an idea of maybe why we're seeing more hot heads and temper flares than what we've seen in years past? I know the word respect comes up a lot, but that doesn't have much detail. Do you like to go with that?
Well, I think part of it has to do with the ages and maturity levels of the drivers. You don't very often see the older guys getting into fisticuffs. They've been around each other long enough. They respect each other enough to go sit down and talk about it. Not always, but for the most part. But I think it is
you can
a
handle like
generation.
Derek Amarola did.
Right. But I think it's a generational thing. It used to be, and one of the drivers made this comment, and I can't recall who it was. Maybe one of you guys do. But talked about how back in the day, you would go to the other driver's hauler and you'd sit down and you'd talk it out. But today, everybody's an armchair warrior on their phones. And so I think there's a little less respect and a little more friction from that, because you get behind your phone and you can say whatever you want to say, but you forget that you got to deal with these guys on a weekly basis at the track.
Right. That's an interesting point that you brought up there. And the first thing that I thought when Denny Hamlin created a podcast was, this is going to be where his platform is, and then he's going to piss everybody off on his platform, and then it's going to make his job that much harder on the racetrack. But it's almost like Denny Hamlin kind of knew that was not the route to go. And he's one of these weird people in life that he can put on one hat and be a certain way, and then he can take that hat off and he can become something else. And it's almost like, this whole podcast thing that he's created hasn't really caused the disturbance amongst other drivers as I thought it would. It's actually stirred up more with NASCAR than it has been with the pissing off fellow drivers and such, and basically thinking that Hamlin had gone Hollywood. Now, of course, you've always had personalities in racing. Michael Waltrip's been a TV personality throughout most of his career. Greg Biffle, Ken Schrader, these guys, I don't know if you guys remember on the old Speed Channel, but, there was a similar show like Race Hub, and it was Biffle and Waltrip. Who all was on that show? Miss Leah, you remember, don't you?
Oh, gosh, that's been so long.
Oh, my gosh, it was forever ago. So, we've had personalities, even Neil Bonnet and Darrell Waltrip, they were still racing when Winter Circle was going on, but being the type of personality Denny Hamlin was, we kind of expected him to kind of stir the pot and maybe create friction amongst other people. But it's kind of been the exact opposite. But back to the main topic of what we were talking about the stress level that these drivers are under, the tempers that happen, the heat ups and the confrontations between the two drivers. I think you're exactly right, Ms. Lee. A lot of this has to do with these guys don't hang out with each other anymore. They're all stuck behind their cell phones, and so this is a generation of we don't say it to your face, we say it on the telephone, right? And we know as well as I mean, I'm from old school. You got your mouth knocked in if you said some of the things you say on that you get away with saying on Twitter, right? I mean, you wouldn't dare say that 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. You'd have got your ass kicked. They'd have beat your ass, and then everybody would have beat your ass because it was disrespectful. So, but now, you know, you kind of get away with it.